Hello there and welcome. My name is Aaron Craig and I am with Beyond Us Games. And in this tutorial what I'm going to be showing you is how to create enemies that auto-rotate depending on where you are standing and where you're looking. So let me show you what we're going to be making in this tutorial. We're going to be using a collision circle, so that means that as soon as you get within the enemy's range, they're going to turn around, they're going to look at you. So you can see here that these enemies actually change sprite and change direction, and they follow you around. So let's dive in and make that. First, we're going to need a couple sprites. So we're going to create a player. I'm going to go in and make this. And if you're not really familiar with making sprites, or a lot of the basic things, I'd recommend looking up some of the other tutorials. I'm just going to be going through here really quickly and not really explaining how to do those things. If you need help, feel free to leave a comment or anything though, and I'll see if I can help you out. So we're going to make some enemies here, really simple, just so you can tell where they are. Sprite enemy right, and we're going to center it. And then you can go ahead and just duplicate this a couple times over, changing which one is which. And here I'm just using the quick keys. Saves a lot of time if you know which key does which thing. Okay, so one sprite left. And I'll show you why this is really important, that you don't want to just create one sprite and have different images that are active. And I'll show you why you really want to group these like this. First though, let's create an object. We're going to make it the player objects. And we're going to create a step event. Now what I'm going to do is actually just copy over the code I'm using. I don't want to spend a lot of time on movement. There are a lot of great tutorials if you don't understand how to do it. I'm using a basic WASD and checking if the place is free. Feel free to pause and copy this if you need to. Just a simple movement scheme, nothing very fancy. That's all we need for the player. Then we're going to go in and create the enemy. Now use whichever one you want. Doesn't matter there, but we're going to go ahead and create another step event. And here is where I'll walk through the code with you as I write it and make sure that you understand everything that we're doing. So like I said, we are using a collision circle. Now what that means is that you give it several different parameters, and it's a circle around whatever object it is, which is the enemy here. So it's the X and Y of the enemy, which we centered it, so it's right in the middle, and we're giving it a radius. Now the radius is only half of a circle, remember, so it's actually going to be 400 pixels out in every direction around every enemy instance on the map. And what it's searching for is a player. If it finds this object player, then it's going to do something. Now this is for a precise collision, which we don't want, and if it should include itself, which we don't want to do right now. So we're going to make a variable real quick, and we're assigning it with point direction, which is a fantastic function that you should definitely be familiar with. And naming convention, again, I would really recommend you always name things well. Unless you're doing a super short project, naming conventions will save you so much time later on. Now, point direction is saying that starting in the middle of the enemy, the X and Y, it's looking at the player and it's getting the specific degree to which the angle is at from the middle of the enemy, which is really important for what we're going to be doing here. Now I'm going to be using a series of if statements and checking for specific angles, and if they meet that criteria, then we're going to change the actual sprite that's being displayed. And you can go ahead and copy this 4 times. I wouldn't recommend copying and pasting very often, but in this case, it's allowed. So we're going to change the numbers on the second case here to 135 and 225, and then 225 for the first one here, and 315. And you can probably guess what we're doing here. Now, the last case, though, you got to be first change these, so we don't want to do up every single one. So we're doing left and down, and then this one's going to be right. But this one's going to be a little more tricky, so we need to add in several different cases here. So first, we're going to add another parenthetical mark at the beginning, and we're actually going to be saying if this is less than 45 and greater than 0. Now, I'll explain this to you in just a second, but if it's between 45 and 0, or it's between 315 and 360, then we're going to be changing it. So the way GameMaker handles degrees is it starts with 0 degrees on the right, 90 up, 180 left, 270 down. And what I'm doing, instead of having perfect 90-degree segments that it's checking for, I'm changing it to in between here. So, let me try that again. So in between this area, it's up. And then in between this area is right, and so on and so forth. And it gives it a much more natural look to the enemy instead of having perfectly 90-degree angles for everything it does. And this is actually all we need for the enemy. So go ahead and make a quick room, doesn't matter what size or anything. Add in the objects that we need, which is a player, and add in several different enemies so that you can test them out. And go ahead and run it, and everything should be working great if we did it right. So we move into the collision circle, and the enemy follows us around. So you can see that it works really nicely here. Like if you're within the circle, then it's going to change. If not, then it's not looking at you until you enter it. So it gives it a really nice feel, and you can see like right here, it's like, you know, the middle of it. So where you're looking up, looking right, it feels a little more natural in my opinion. Now this may seem not that useful because they're just circles, but later on, once you actually start incorporating sprites that have movements that move around on the field, it's going to look a whole lot nicer. And I'll show you here on the game that I'm working on. I've got a wolf here, and you can see that he's actually moving when he sees me, and now he's looking up. And you can see that his movements actually change, which is why we needed to have each sprite for each direction that he's looking. And he's following me around, and he's moving, and it looks really, really nice. So I hope that was helpful and that you learned what you need to do. And if you have any questions or comments, then please leave a comment, and I will try to respond if I can. If you have any suggestions for videos, please leave them. I want to make more, and I just need to know where to start. So thank you for watching, and have a great day.